We play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com and welcome to this week's Sit and Talk. I was supposed to do last week's Sit and Talk, but unfortunately I got sick and then the week was just too busy with all the filming that we were doing. I did not have a chance. So I'm basically bumping everybody back. Although, since we have Luca and Colin as new employees, Colin is just for the summer, but still, you may have questions for them. So what we're going to do is next week we're going to put Luca and Colin together in one Sit and Talk and you can ask them all your questions. And so leave your comments in the comment section below for Luca and Colin. You can ask them anything business related, about how they like working here, about wargaming, whatever you want, and then they will do their best to answer them for you. Make sure you obviously address the person that you want to leave the comment for, like Luca or Colin, or Luca or Colin, or Luca and Colin, and that way they'll know who you're talking to. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can't leave comments there. We've disabled them, so you have to go onto our site to leave the comments. That's just so we can more easily organize them. We have nothing against YouTube comments. All our other videos have them, of course. And for the next 30 minutes, I will answer the questions from the last Sit and Talk that you left for me. And then after that 30 minutes is over, we will then adjourn for our Sit and Vault, which is another 30 minutes of me answering questions just for Vault members. Link in the video description below. So let's just jump right into this, shall we? Oh, and make sure you thumb up the questions you want answered, because we actually look at the top thumbed up ones first, and then we randomly choose after that. Magnet Rafla. Matthew, are you planning on doing a How to Play 8th Edition video series? Yes, definitely. Now, we're going to want to have a lot of 8th Edition under our belt before we do that, so don't expect to see it right away. Right away, we're going to be doing a ton of coverage on it. We're hoping to do reviews on each of the new factions and battle reports on each of the new factions as well in a very condensed amount of time. So you should expect, once 8th Edition hits, to see a ton of coverage from us on that, more than how much 40K coverage we normally do right now. And then after we've done a lot of it, we'll settle back down to our normal frequency, because we definitely wouldn't be able to keep up that pace. Also, could you give us a few more sneak peeks to your Necromunda Armageddon upcoming campaign? That would have made sense last Friday, but today it doesn't make sense because yesterday the first 3 games went up, plus the story. There's currently an offer for non-Vault members. If you sign up for the Vault through a special link, you have to go back to those videos and look at it. Then you can actually get the entire campaign for free, even if you cancel your Vault membership, so go check that out right now. But the first 3 ones were actually published for free because we wanted everybody to get a good taste of what it is, and each game is relatively quick, and so one game isn't enough for you to really know how much you're definitely going to want to watch. Probably the 48 games in this series, which is awesome. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Magnet Rafla. Ash Pole 81, really got to enunciate that one. Matthew, I am a huge fan of the Sit and Talks. I was wondering, with the new additions of Luca and Colin to the MiniWarGaming team, if you could introduce them into the rotation, doing a one-off host style Sit and Talk with each of them. Well, just talked about that. I know they are by no means strangers to MiniWarGaming, but it would be cool. So yeah. It was also nice to see an open vault. Thank you. Although this doesn't let Quirk off the hook, when you started mildly putting him on the spot about it, I found myself chuckling and saying, "Get him, Matt, get him!" All in good fun. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work. Yeah, we definitely want to do more open vaults. Miso, this is a PS, so he doesn't realize that comments are in random order. Also, please alter your website so we can edit text after it's posted. It is really annoying to post something and then the formatting go haywire. I agree. It's definitely on the to-do list when I finally get around to working on the website. Sand Tiger, Matt, what are your favorite parts of the new 8th edition related to your own armies? Best regards, Thomas. Now, when you say my own armies, I actually looked at it over the past 6 months. I think I've played 11 or 12 different armies. What I consider my own armies, obviously, are Tyranids and Genes to the Cult are number 1, and then number 2 to that would be like the Tau and the Necrons, were the other ones that I played a lot of. But nearest to my heart will always be the Tyranids, and especially Genes to the Cult. I think I even can say that I like Genes to the Cult more than Tyranids, but only because that they were so cool and played so well in 7th edition. What am I looking forward to for those 2 armies is the fact that combat looks like it's going to be a thing again. It's hard to say until you actually play it. I know people can disengage from combat and then you can fire it, so you're not going to be able to tar pit, but they mentioned how Shadow in the Warp is going to stop me from actually doing, what do you call those tests? The ones where you do leadership test and you remove more guys. Okay, I'm sorry, my mind just blanked there. But they'll basically be fearless against all that kind of stuff, so it'll be a lot harder to kill my guys, but at the same time you'll be able to withdraw from them. They gave the stats to the Swarm Lord. He looks like a beast now. So I'm glad that they basically merged monstrous creatures and vehicles to have the same basic rules, So I'm looking forward to what that will do. I think it'll allow carnifexes and other monstrous creatures to become more relevant again. And yeah, it should be really interesting. I look forward to that. So the combat being really good, psychic powers being streamlined looks really good. Everything I've seen so far has made me very excited. So I'm very happy with everything I've seen. The simplification of it, and yet it's going to be a new game. I don't know if everybody realizes just how different a game this is going to be. If you've played Age of Sigmar, obviously you've seen a lot of components familiar from that, which is good. They're drawing a lot of their expertise from what they learned from Age of Sigmar, and it looks like even making some improvements off of it. So I'm looking forward to, hopefully, it all comes down to points. We can talk about rules all we want, but I've told people you can't freak out about the rules because they don't tell you balance. If somebody said, because I remember seeing a comment from Monstrous Creatures saying, oh great, you made my Monstrous Creatures even worse because now when they take a certain number of wounds, they're not as good. It's like, well, you don't know if they made them worse because the points value is what determines if they made them worse or not. If I said a Carnifex only has 2 wounds now, and you're like, well, that makes him worse, but he's only 5 points. Oh, okay, well, I guess he's really awesome. And if I said this thing fires 20 strength 10 shots at Ballistic skill 1500, that sounds really good, but then I say, but he costs 5,000 points, you're like, oh, that's not that good. So really, it comes down to points balancing more than it comes down to the rules. The rules are more about what makes the game work and what makes things cool and thematic, and then the points are what balance it. So that'll still be the indicator of what'll be balanced or not. But I'm thinking the tyranids are going to get a welcome boost in their power level, which would be really nice. ABPBM, hi Matt, what happened to the new website? There was initial bugged launch and then nothing. Is there still a plan for the future? Unfortunately, that didn't work out, so that website is not going to be happening anytime soon. And so we can expect further web development, but it's been delayed even more, unfortunately. It's a hard process because our site is old, there's a lot to it, and I'm technically the web developer, but I don't have a lot of time for it. So we'll be working on it. There should be incremental updates to it over the next few months, hopefully. Also, will we see Luca take part in the heresy? And if so, what army? I assume you mean Horus Heresy? And I actually don't know what army he would play for the Horus Heresy. Death Guard. Death Guard? Is that what he's playing? Yeah. Okay, Death Guard. There's your answer from Steve. Moki. Matthew. I remember your old sit-and talks used to cover a lot of other topics outside of 40K. You talked about life, religion, politics, and all the in-between. In the spirit of nostalgia, I have 2 questions, and I would like to hear the first answer that immediately pops into your head. Number 1, what is one of your favorite Disney/Pixar movies? Oh. Wow, okay, the first one that pops in my head is Cars. Was Wreck-It Ralph Disney or Pixar?
No, it's Disney.
But Wreck-It Ralph was Disney, right?
Yes, it is.
I loved Wreck-It Ralph. I like a lot of the Pixar movies. What was the more recent ones? Like Zootopia was really good. Sing was really good. Watch a lot of these because I've got all my kids, right? And I watch them a lot. Get to know these movies quite well. So Shrek was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. So 2, what happens in the movie when you introduce tyranids to it? What happened? Okay, all right, so let's choose one of those movies and introduce tyranids to it. So let's say Shrek. We introduce tyranids to it. Well, then Shrek has other problems to deal with because there's people invading his swamp. Well, there will be tyranids invading his swamp. Now, Shrek's a big dude, so I think he could take them on. But after a while, even he wouldn't be able to take them all out. Because we saw him take out all those soldiers in that gladiatorial arena with Lord Farquaad watching over him. And he even kind of fought a dragon, but he didn't really directly fight it. He kind of outsmarted it, which is a funny thing for an ogre to do. But I think he'll make some tasty biomass. And his genes will be integrated into the greater gene pool for the tyranids. And they'll make some interesting ogre hybrids. So that'll be really good for that. Captain Italia, Sir Matthew, I was digging through your old videos and discovered MiniWarGaming procured their very own Warlord Titan a few years ago. Whatever happened to it? Is that the one that fell and broke? It fell off the shelf and broke. Did we ever fix that?
No.
Yeah, it really, really broke. So I'm not sure if you're going to see it anytime soon. I know that's heartbreaking, but I'm unaware of any battle report involving it, apocalypse or otherwise. Did Dave sacrifice it to Phoebe? Who's Phoebe? Not sure about that. Yeah, it kind of fell a long distance. Not on purpose. We didn't like drop it off a roof or something. And it kind of smashed into little pieces. So I'm not sure if we'll fix it. We'll see. I don't even know if we still have it. Phoenix King, Matt, is Warzone Apothis part of the official MiniWarGaming lore? Sure, yeah. With new Return to Fame, it didn't look like Khanom was doing so well narrative-wise, which is weird considering he took over 2 Tomb Worlds and was fixing his world engine. Yeah, the problem with Khanom, the reason that we kind of finagle him the way he did, is because of the flare virus that is working with him, that it's kind of working against him as much as he's like, everybody needs the flare virus. Necrons don't typically want the flare virus, and so as he goes out to spread the good news of the flare virus, the Tomb Worlds do resist. And so basically in between Wars on Apophis and Return to Fayum, he's had some internal problems and was reduced to the power level that you saw him there. So yeah. Miso, Matthew, the dear leader of MiniWarGaming, Dave is Eternal Leader. So I'm the dear leader and Dave is Eternal Leader. Got it. You and Dave seem to take turns to do other projects like Dark Potential or filming or having children. So my question is, what is your next project? That's a good question. I remember you once said you were thinking of doing a Kickstarter for a narrative campaign or something similar. Is that still on the cards? Are you worried about any rights issues? I'm not sure if that's on the cards, to be honest. This because my attention, I'm so ADD when it comes to what I want to play, that it's hard for me to plan like more than 3 or 4 months in advance because new things pop up in front of me and I'm like, ooh, I want to play that. Like, I come home from a Adepticon, all ready to do certain things, and we get this, we get Armageddon. And I'm like, oh, what's Armageddon? Oh, it's like Necromunda. And I open it up, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I want to play this. And then we started playing tons of Armageddon, and now we've just filmed this huge Armageddon Necromunda narrative campaign. And that wasn't planned. That was just, boom, out of nowhere. We decided to do it because I was really excited by it. The other thing I'm really excited for was the announcement of the Fallout miniature game, so I definitely want to play that, so we're prepping for that. And part of that is I'm hoping to do another narrative campaign, or role-playing game campaign / narrative campaign with the game This Is Not a Test by World End Publishing, which is basically a post-apocalyptic. It's like Fallout, but it's not the Fallout license. It's a nice little game system that combines kind of the, you know, not degrading it by making these comparisons. It's like Fallout meets Necromunda, which is really cool. And so I want to do a one-on-one RPG / narrative campaign with somebody in the office, and I haven't decided who yet. It probably won't be till like July or August that I actually do this. And we're getting a ton of terrain put together for it, and there will be like the opening part of each of the stories, or each of the episodes will be like maybe 15 minutes where we're actually sitting down one-on-one doing an RPG session, and then when the person comes across into an encounter, then that switches over to the actual game itself. So that can be a lot of fun. But projects, I know that's not really what you're talking about because that's just a show. You're talking like if I'm doing a board game or doing a miniatures game or like a Kickstarter. I don't really have anything planned for that kind of thing. Nothing that's brewing in my head. I have all sorts of games that I want to play and shows that I want to do, but no big projects like that. So Dave's the only one doing that right now. Or is there something else in the cards? A board game, Dark Potential? Another kid? Well, you'll just have to wait and see. For what it's worth, I always thought you guys should try making a wargaming / geek version of Felicia Day's The Guild or Simon Pegg's Spaced. Maybe easier to make them than big-time Lord of the Rings style films. Best dude, MM. Wow. Yeah, it's hard to say because it's like something strikes us and then we have to decide whether it fits into the business, whether we have time to do it, and how much we care to do it too. Zendave. Hey Matt, just wondered what you think of the 8th edition datasheet so far. Okay, so from what I've seen so far, it is my belief that armies with lots of access to psychers will be incredibly powerful. Do you have an opinion on this? Depends how they implement the psychic thing. I know in Age of Sigmar, everybody has that one power, I don't remember what it's called, but you're only allowed to cast it once per turn. So if they do that, that can really tone down the psychic stuff. But then like armies like Grey Knights, which rely on psychers to activate their abilities, maybe they'll have some special rules for that. So it really all comes down to how the psychic stuff is going to work. But I think psychers will be powerful, but I think it'll also be dialed back a bit, just because, you know, we won't have tons, as far as I can see, we won't have tons of disciplines, tons of all these different powers. It'll be more like per model basis, so we'll see. But I have been really liking the 8th edition stuff so far. GBC 343. Hold on a second. I got to keep an eye on my timer here. I'm at what with 8th right around the corner. I was wondering what army you think will change the most from the new rule set. Holy cow, the most? They're all going to change dramatically. Which one will change the most? Well, the easiest one to say would be like Imperial Knights, because it's all like super heavies, which will just become monstrous creatures of a sort, having wounds instead of hull points and toughness instead of armor value. So having your entire army go from one type of gameplay to another is kind of a big change. So I think that would qualify for biggest change. But there's also like biggest changes in like this army is now really good at this, whereas it didn't used to be. I actually don't know. I can't even I think my Tyranids are going to change a lot. Gene Stealer Cult, I'm not sure. Necrons will probably still keep doing what they always do, which is being resilient and shooting mid-range. Tau will probably still have all the tricks of shooting, especially with the being able to retreat and not being tar pitted. So I still think the armies will play according to the strengths that they're supposed to have, but the whole game is going to change. So that's a tough question to answer. JB Cool Dog. Hi Matt, it's been a while since my last comment, but I still love watching your content. Thank you, JB Cool Dog. I'm interested to know how you plan to start showing us 8th edition. Are you going to have a game planned out with each army? Or are you going to do a huge game showing off a few, or just start with simple games of Space Marines? The plan right now, and it's a rather ambitious plan, is to take each army, do reviews on how each army has changed, and on the same day of those reviews have a pairing of battle reports that goes up for them. So for example, one day we would feature Tyranids, where we'd have probably a 2-part Tyranid review, one for free, one in the vault, and then 2 Tyranid battle reports. And then we have another day for Orcs, another day for Space Marines, another day for Eldar. And there's a lot to cover, so I don't think we'll be able to cover all the armies that way, but we can at least hit a lot of them. Because there's just so many that we could cover that way. And so that's our initial plan. And then obviously we're going to be doing our regular battle reports. I want to do how to play. We're going to do more review, more discussion videos, all sorts of stuff. We want to cover it a lot. We want to give it a lot of attention. I always look forward to a good special episode with you guys to really kick off the new edition. Keep up the amazing work. You guys are great, James. Yeah, I definitely we'll be doing a lot for it. XCOM Man. Matt, please give Mr. Mountain time to read. What? Were you complaining about not having time to read your codexes or something?
No, I don't read.
He doesn't read. That's what he just said. I don't read. I don't expect our employees to be literate. They need to be able to see the model that they're painting. I guess they need to be literate and read rules, but insert joke here.
Nah, they'll tell you to do wrong.
Yeah, you guys just tell, but then we have to be able to read the comments. Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. 99 Arcturus. Matt, what do you think about the new Space Marines? They look about equal to veterans by what we have seen with better bolters. The Primaris Marines, I think, are interesting. Like, rules-wise, they seem kind of boring, but I think you'll probably see more how interesting they'll be more in how they work with the armies. I'm curious to see how that'll work. There's rumors around the office here that they think that they're just going to phase out the old Space Marines and replace them with Primaris Space Marines, which I don't know. I'm not sure if they're eventually going to do that. Sorry if you had headphones on. But yeah, rules-wise, they look kind of boring. You know, just the, what is it, like an extra wound, and their bolters are slightly better, and they're taller. So I'm not quite sure what to think about them until we actually see them. Honestly, out of everything that's been coming out for 8th edition, the Primaris Space Marines are the thing that I am least interested in. It just, I think it's a brilliant move from Games Workshop to do them, because they're like, you know what, our most popular faction is Space Marines, but everybody's already got Space Marines, but we're going to be pushing Space Marines a lot, so why don't we make a new Space Marine that all the Space Marine players now need to purchase as well? And I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant business-wise, but I just wish the rules were more interesting, but maybe they will be once we see how they work in an army. But right now, just a data sheet for them, meh, whatever. They do kind of just look like Sternguard kind of thing. Excuse me. Troggle Humper? What's a Troggle? I'm not going to look it up. Definitely not going to do a Google image search. I've fallen into that trap too many times with you guys. Since Games Workshop sent you Armageddon early, I'm guessing with an NDA, it would make sense the same arrangement would apply to 8th edition. Obviously, you can't talk about it, but you could read this question. I guess it's not a question yet. Are you excited for 8th edition? I'm not sure how to answer that. Are you excited for 8th edition? I am excited for 8th edition. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Row desks. Matt, I've noticed in all your 40K battle reports that you have very simple and plain objective markers, usually just numbered coins. Have you ever thought about having some custom objective markers made just from spare bits? As an example, I have a set of 3 objectives per army I own. My Tau ones are a fallen Riptide shield, a damaged drone, and a Tau weapons rack, etc. You could do something like that easily, I'm sure, or build a set per terrain theme, so one for city, another for forest, etc. That's true. I'm not sure how the missions are going to be working out in 8th edition, but I know when you're just playing Maelstrom, it's just nice to have 6 flat objectives that really don't interact with the board other than just being those objectives. And then we kind of just put them, usually I try to put them in places that signify an objective, like there's a downed land raider here, so I'll put one there. Or there's a pile of barrels, so I'll put one there. But it's not a bad idea. It just, I don't personally care about that, mainly because objectives, I find, if they're not just flat, then they can interact. And they're not necessarily technically supposed to interact. They're not supposed to give you cover. They're not supposed to block a model from walking on top of them and those things. So it's just easier to use the flat ones. Sticky Blue Toffee. I realized I put a typo in my question, so repeating it here correctly with an additional query. Well, I got lucky. This one actually got posted first. So how does knowing a new edition of 40K coming out affect you personally in the business with regards to the current rule set? Well, I'll answer that before I keep going. It makes me just want to be done with the current rules, I'll be honest. I've been enjoying Armageddon. I've been enjoying playing other games, but the 7th edition 40K, as much as I enjoy playing it when I play it, I don't look forward to it as much. I'm like, let's just be done with this, because I'm really looking forward to 8th edition. Personally, are you wanting to play lots of 7th edition games the last hurrah, or does the thought of something new come in dent your enthusiasm for 7th? Yeah. But from a business perspective, are you having to reduce the games you film to make sure you don't end up with too many to publish? We didn't have to reduce, but we did have to reschedule some stuff. We basically already, at this point of you watching this, have already filmed enough 40K games for 7th edition. So we've had to talk to some of the guests, and that will be coming after that, and kind of reorganize what we're going to be doing with them, because we just don't need any more 7th edition. Big Mikey, Matt, first off, hope all is well and your day is going well. It is, thank you. My question is, now that you have acquired some more amazing content producers, are you considering covering other games outside the GW universe? After 8th edition comes out, of course. Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to go into much more details than that. Basically, I've already talked about it a bit. Like, I'm excited for Fallout. I want to play This Is Not a Test. I know the other guys are working on some other potential shows that will be starting, who knows when, in the next few months probably, covering some other games. So, yes. The simple answer is yes. And what that will look like, that'll be a constant evolution, so I can't really say. Or even what those games are, because I don't want to get you excited for certain games and then we not do them. So, yeah. Trailblazer, hey Matthew, there was a poll at one point pointing towards a Battlefleet Gothic campaign. Is that something we can look forward to, or is it in the back burner for now? It went on the back burner. I was jonesing for a skirmish level game, and so that's why it was like, I kind of wanted to play Gorka Morka, but I had a funny feeling that people would rather us play Battlefleet Gothic. And so I did that poll, and Battlefleet Gothic was the sure winner. And everybody here was excited to play it, and we started buying up armies. But then Armageddon came out, and now 8th edition is coming out, so it's definitely in the back burner. But when I say back burner, it's not like I want to still do it, but it's just, it'll be held off for a little while. Flip Mode SH. Hi Matt. Firstly, just wanted to say that I enjoyed Fayum personally. I hope you got some learning out of it, but it was still a decent product. Well, thank you. I have been very impressed that you have continued to support Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Do you think that Horus Heresy will be your only 7th edition content soon, or will other armies continue? I don't imagine us continuing 7th edition besides Horus Heresy. I think 8th edition, I think the reason Warhammer Fantasy Battle works so well as a continuation is two things. One, Age of Sigmar was a bit of a bust when it first came out because they hadn't had the General's Handbook out yet. And so they didn't have points values. And so so that's a big part right there, is that people just didn't know how to play it. And two, going from Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition to Age of Sigmar was such a dramatic change to the game. I know 7th to 8th is going to be dramatic, but I don't think it'll be anywhere near as dramatic as Fantasy going to Age of Sigmar. Like, I know there's a lot of parallels. For example, 8th edition 40K is going to look a lot like Age of Sigmar. And also you have the galaxy being split in half, just like you had the old world destroyed. So there are a lot of similarities between the two, but they're right away coming out with points, or right away coming out with basically the General's Handbook kind of thing. And so I don't see that I know people, of course, there will always be people who will be like, well, I want to keep playing 7th edition, but I just can't see that being super common, because I think people are kind of tired of 7th edition bloat, and 8th edition will really help with that. Whereas Fantasy, I don't think it was super bloated at the time that Age of Sigmar came out. I think it was just had lost. Oh yeah?
Well, that's why it died.
That's why? No, but I think it was more just because the type of game wasn't as interesting to people. Like, honestly, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but coming down to things like moving movement trays around, having to paint up like 500 guys just to have a regular size army.
That was the bloat, yeah.
Oh, that's the bloat you're talking about. No, I'm talking about rules bloat.
Oh, okay.
Because when you play a game of fantasy, generally, it went pretty fast once you got it on the table. But yeah, it's hard to say. But I think that the change from Fantasy Age of Sigmar is a much more dramatic change than from 7th to 8th. So I don't think we're going to be leaving behind this huge audience that want to keep seeing 7th edition. There will be a nice audience that want to keep seeing Horus Heresy, so we will definitely continue to cover that, which is going to be a pain to keep up with remembering the 7th edition rules and 8th edition stuff, because thankfully they're probably a big enough change that things will be obvious what you can and cannot do, but I know there's going to be rules issues for that. I remember just playing Fantasy in 40k back when I played Fantasy. That even just, and as different as they were, I would still sometimes carry over the wrong rules from one to the other. But it is what it is. Finally, as we have seen tournament organizers involved in developing 8th, I wonder if MiniWarGaming had any contact, or if your relationship with GW has changed noticeably in their new era of being lovely. Well, what I can definitely say is they are being way more open and more sociable, I guess you could say. Look, we met them at Adepticon, it's been great, and yes, they're definitely willing to work with us a lot more. And that is wonderful. Like it's just great. It feels like they've done a whole 180 over the past couple of years, and what they've produced, what they're willing to do. They have one last hurdle to overcome. One last hurdle, and that is to stop disabling YouTube comments. That's their last hurdle. Just enable YouTube comments, and you're good to go. I know that they have the limited team for their social media, and they want to be able to kind of keep on top of all their social media, and they're doing a great job with Facebook, things like that, and their live, their Twitch one as well. But YouTube, that's their last hurdle. So I'll be impressed when I see that happen. Because I know that they really want to keep a close eye on all the comments so they can reply and so they can just work to have a good front. Lord Bjorn, Matt, is anyone starting a new Sky Pirates or Age of Sigmar? I think Steve right now is actually painting them. Are you right now, Steve, painting the Sky Pirates?
Yep, this moment.
He is, right now. Ghost Game. In Tyranids vs. Death Guard, Beat Map Batrap episode 40, you said that you hope that Games Workshop will get rid of Overwatch. What is your view on that units now get to Overwatch as many times as they are charged, as long as they're not engaged by a charging unit? I think it's good because it was always silly when somebody would charge like one Tyranid. But I can't remember exactly how that rule works. If a unit charges and they get Overwatch, but then they make their charge and engage it, it can't Overwatch anymore, right? Okay, so that's you still have some silliness. Like I played one game, Horus Heresy, where I had 10 flamers come out of a drop pod because it was a support squad. Flamed a bunch, did some damage. And then I'm like, sweet, now he's not going to want to charge me because I got 10 flaming Overwatch. So that's 10d3 automatic hits. But he just brought up a Dreadnought. And, well, see, that's kind of solved in a way too, because now I can hurt the Dreadnoughts with the flamers. But basically he charged the Dreadnought first, so I could Overwatch it, but it's strength 4 against armor 12, so couldn't hurt it. But I guess that kind of is solved by the fact that Dreadnought will probably like toughness 7 or something, and I'll just wound it on 6s. So it'll take like 10d3, and 10d3 hits wounded on 6s, so that could actually do some damage. Interesting. I still am not a big fan of Overwatch, just because it's an extra shooting attack in a game that's already very shooty. I'd love to see it gone completely, but I guess now with vehicles, yeah, so it solves a couple things. Like the one time basically you have a unit and they have like I have one Termagant here and I have a big group right here, so I'll charge a Termagant first, he'll absorb the Overwatch, but now they can shoot at him, they'll kill him, and then they can Overwatch the next one. So it solves that problem. The other problem being things with armor value that you can't hurt charging first, but now you can hurt them. So they've solved the problems with the really cheesy things you can do with Overwatch. And so I guess it's less to complain about. I still don't like the extra shooting, but I do like that at least now they solved the problem of somebody just, throwing away. If it's going to be a thing, then don't have somebody just be like, well, I'll throw this one Hormagant at you, and you're like, oh, fine, I'll kill that one Hormagant with all my shooting. And then the other guys will charge in. For some reason, I just focus down that one guy instead of this big group coming at me. Still, I'd love to see it gone, just period. But it's not going to be, so I will accept it and play with it. Warlord 0183, how much time do we have left? Oh, only got a minute. So the last comment here, and then I'll go to the sit and vault. Hey, I am new to the tabletop world, and as I have been building my first army and things, I have wondered about if there is any rules that would stop someone playing a game of the same race versus itself, like Necrons versus Necrons. No, absolutely not. In fact, fluff-wise, you could find a reason for anybody to be playing anybody. Like Necrons versus Necrons, Necrons fight all the time. Tyranids versus Tyranids even. The hive fleets, when they clash, they do fight to find out which one's better and absorb the genes of the other ones. every one of the faction has sub-factions. So even Space Marines, like I could do Ultramarines versus Ultramarines and call it a training exercise. Really, you can do whatever you want. Or maybe it's really Alpha Legion, just looking like Ultramarines. Also, I've noticed that MiniWarGaming does not do 2v2s or more, and I was just wondering if there was a rule that stopped that or that made it less entertaining. No rule, it's just cost to make, is really what it is. We have a production schedule we got to keep up on, and so having 2v2 just costs more to make, and we make less videos. So we don't see them as often for that reason. I also love your videos and love watching all the banter bat reps. Keep it up. Thank you very much. That is all the time we have for our free sit and talk. Now we will go to the sit and vault, which will be at the link below, and I'll continue answering questions for our vault members. And don't forget, if you want to leave comments for Luke and Colin, do it on this video in the comments below, or if you're watching us on YouTube, there will be a link to the page that you can leave the comments on, and thumb up the questions that you'd like to see. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the vault.